There you go.
So I'm really sure.
No, I.
We are now.
We are live.
Oh, sorry.
I'm still alive.
Thank you, councillors, for hanging on for the planning meeting for April. No public speakers were available. No, so we could move on to item 1 on the agenda. Apologies for absence. Councillor Harvey, thank you very much. Noted. Item 2, declarations of interest.
Usual.
Robin, the usual one. As a member of the
Occasionally meeting planning committee.
and Margaret.
As a near neighbour of one of the planning applications in Watchcroft Drive, I won't comment on that.
Noted, thank you. Minutes. Oh, sorry.
Well, if we're going near neighbours, yes. In Chandos Road, we've got one.
Right.
But
A near neighbour.
yeah. What the heck?
That affect you financially? Or? No,
Just
okay.
I know people.
Right,
So we've got
okay.
interest, but not at the community.
There we go. Took it right out of my mouth.
Okay, but you'd like it recorded, would you?
Not necessary.
Well, we haven't got one ready down there, like.
Okay.
If you could record it. Well, thank you very much. We received the minutes of the planning committee held on the 27th of March. We'll have all had a copy. Is that one? Happy that? Pass it back. Thank you, record. Thank you. Move on to Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, Vale of Aylesbury Plan, Buckinghamshire Local Plan. Receive any updates? I will start off by saying there was a piece in the Times newspaper and the Daily Mail 2 Fridays ago, which stated that 55 local councils, including Buckinghamshire, were scrapping their local plans. I've got in touch with Peter Strachan, cabinet member for planning and regeneration, and they weren't aware of it. They looked at it and put out a statement telling the Times that it was incorrect. They were not scrapping their plan, and they asked for an apology to be printed in the Times, both online and in the newspaper, which, as far as I'm aware, is done. He wasn't aware that the Mail had also done it, but that seems to have gone by the book. So, anyway, just that's the report on there. So, anyway, you've seen the Buckinghamshire Plan, which is due to be completed in July 2025. It was due to be completed in July 25, but as you'll hear a little later, that probably that date is going to be a movable feast. So, Catherine, anything you've got to add to?
No, we haven't done a neighbourhood plan meetings.
No, we got that this week. Right, we can move on in that case to straight to the action reports. Have those prepared for you. Most of the stuff on there is going to be on the agenda tonight, but the first one to pick up cycle round railway walk. Council staff be working in town clerk to progress. Town clerk, do you have any news on that?
No.
No, fine. Robin?
Nothing I can say.
Nothing at the moment. That will continue. We are waiting for replies about the A422 bypass roundabout, where second left-hand lane has been.
That was on.
Yeah.
Did you? Sorry, which one were?
Page
Bypass
yeah.
roundabout. We remember the multi-letter that we sent.
We use the funds for Buckingham Transport.
It's on that. Okay.
No response yet.
The only one, Chad, if it isn't any quicker, is fine. I'm having a moment. Where's
Yeah, there's a few letters that
the
request. Buckinghamshire Local Plan, Strategic Sites Committee. You're writing. Thank you.
Number 7460 Lace Hill Medical Centre.
Yeah.
I've had a response to that referring on to somebody else. So basically I'm going to have to refer right again to the other party.
Okay.
So no real update there, but just to tell you that it
Right, record program, nothing for West End Farm. Thank you. Anyone got any questions on the action list? Warren.
Thank you, yes, on 577/22 of the Coral Meadows Caravan Access Area. I did follow this up with the Buckinghamshire Council, following the email that was sent to the Town Council back in February. Does seem to be a little bit of an unusual situation, because obviously the reason why I raised the issue about the junction of Oswald Way earlier is that this went ahead with that AD draw being approved formally at that whole junction. So whilst the officer has achieved something, there's very little extra he can now do, because there is no mechanism for him to extract any further. So it's down to whatever the Buckinghamshire Council can find in Congress to now do anything extra. I did respond back and say that we haven't had great crossings elsewhere in Buckingham when there's been local maps. For example, the ones that I instigated outside Portland at a school, they were averaged only a couple of years ago. But I see no reason why it can't be a route forward should the Town Council want to work with the Buckinghamshire Council councillors as a potential local project. But in the interim, he has confirmed to me that he has passed on the issue to the cycling and walking team, and has accepted now that we are reawakening that working group to try to progress some cycling and walking schemes. So I'm sure we'll find one way or another to make improvements. It's just a question of time there, I think.
Thank you for that, Warren. Robin?
Just to support Warren, I mean, the active travel plan, it would seem logical that the active travel plan, but which acts Buckingham, which will include cycleways, maybe takes a look at that. And I think Warren and I will probably chase that up in our own ways, although I expect he'll lead on it as it's anyway. But I think it's something to be considered. I mean, on the action, I'll update on 74622, which is the skate park upgrade. I've had correspondence with the cabinet member, which I'll, but I'm also in the process of a written question to council, which should be public tomorrow, which may give us the detail in the public domain, which you'll be able to refer to as members over the time in placement of that part. I had a good at the email response and planning of events. I have already spoken to the deputy town clerk about those matters, but I may talk to them in a little bit more detail later. But they are being covered, and the response is public tomorrow. I think they publish the written questions tomorrow when they publish them the day before the meeting. So there should be, the response will be public, so you should be able to read what I know in the public domain tomorrow.
Thank you, Robin. Martin.
Yeah, sorry for this. Could you just remind me how the numbering schemes go? Because I'm getting very confused here. There are duplicate numbers with different headings against them, i.e. the skate park. And even that one's got a decimal place for 746.2/22, and you've got the call in 746.2/22 as well, and there's S106 matters.
Now, Andrew, to
Yeah, certainly, yes.
I can't help it if members divert from one subject to another with a heading like reports. But the minute is the minute. Minutes have to match the agenda, so you can't go inserting it.
I thought maybe the decimal may have been
Well,
put in there to sort of
that-
subdivide it.
It is, but only if it was subdivided. I mean, for example, so you've got 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 under action reports. Those would go in as the minute number 0.1, 2,
Okay.
3. But if it's one heading and you go all over the place, we have to minute it.
Say the V then. It's out.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
I thought that was the missing decimal point from the clerk's little bit. Thank you, Robin.
I thank you, Catherine, for your explanation. Exactly on for donkeys years. You can't, if it's.
I'm sure, and I've seen it before. I just.
But if it's agenda item, so you as a member can trace that back to the minute number with the details of what we've discussed.
Yeah.
So it's been like that for well, at least 2 decades.
Thank you. Right. Following up from action reports to receive for information the list of licensed IMOs, homes in multiple occupation in Buckingham, that's Appendix B. You will note there are a few gaps in there. Catherine, perhaps you'd like to explain why?
Well, there is a link to the website. You can go to the website. You can sort the list on various things. It's obviously like an Excel spreadsheet. What you can't do is get license numbers where they haven't listed it without going specifically back on each one. The only reason for a HIMO to need access to the license is the number of people it's licensed for. But unless members particularly want to know that sort of detail, I can check it before each meeting and see if anything's been added.
Thank you. Robin?
Thank you, Chairman. I think that HMOs, I think the reason this, Catherine will correct me if I'm wrong, we had a large discussion about an application on Lace Hill where we thought it was the only HMO on there, and we found out certainly there was already other HMOs on there, but they'd never been listed because they were below 4. One of the things that I do think that we have to do is monitor this, because it comes back to us as members with people saying people do need HMOs for that type of accommodation, but when they're the first one into an estate, they cause a lot of questions and things to be asked. But it is worth noting that the whole reason out of our district council has HMOs licensed in the toys is because this council asked through a councillor to a motion to the district council to actually get them to introduce Article 4 directives, and they actually chose to do HMO licensing because Article 4 directives cost the council money where licensing raises money, and that's why they chose that route. So it was really actually with the introduced it. I should imagine they did it in South Bucks anyway, but you know, we are where we are. So I do think we need to keep monitoring this, because it just is the change in nature of development in the town where people live, because we will continually be asked these questions.
Yeah, we do in fact have an application tonight, a retrospective application for another IMO. Catherine, I believe we're not, the local planning authority is not obliged to inform us unless it's 6 or more occupants, is that correct?
Or yes, or I believe that they're going to have to give us notice of new ones.
No matter how many. Thank you for that. Then finally, 5.3 under action report called in applications to receive a breakdown of results. Thank you for the work you've done on that, Catherine. Yes. So I know that Councillor Harvey's request, wasn't it? That's very, very helpful. Any comments on that? No, thank you. Take that as read then. In that case, we can move on to our planning applications tonight. We have all 15 before us. First one, University of Buckingham Campus, Chandos Road, construction and operation of a micro energy storage facility, basically a battery box to store electricity in case of the failure of the national grid or local supplies. Catherine has been down there and photographed the site. As you can see, the only quibble we have with it was that they did exactly what they did when we looked at the same site 2 years ago for a faith prayer room on the same site, and they put it on a promontory which doesn't exist. In fact, this battery box will have to sit in the car park. Highways believes it will only take up 1 space, but it's quite obvious from Catherine's drawings it will take up 2 spaces. I'm assuming everyone would be happy for this to go ahead, but we perhaps would draw attention to that. Warren?
Yeah, I think it's an innovative proposal by the university, and it should be applauded that they're thinking about how they can reduce their demand with the grid for their enterprise. And the fact it takes a space up or 2, I mean, seeing things it's not significant. So I think they've even considered the timber finish to the rain. So I'm happy to support this. Obviously, it's not a committee, but I think it's to be welcome that they're thought about how it would look as well.
Okay. Anyone else any comments on this?
I think it should be okay.
I suppose you have no objections, but just draw attention to the fact that we believe it will take up 2 spaces, parking space, lots of 2 spaces, not 1.
Abstention.
Thank you. Seconded, please. Thank you, Anthony. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 2, Thornley House in Castle Street. With a sad story, this has quite a checkered history. This led to shops and offices in 1989, student bedsitters in 1995, consulting rooms in 1999, and then went to a residential property in 2007, became a hotel in 2017. And unfortunately, the pandemic struck and they can no longer continue to run it as a hotel, and the business closed as a hotel in October 2022. The present owner would still like to occupy it as a family home, but unfortunately, that's no longer reality. The financial losses needs to be mitigated, and we have applied to change the use from boutique back to private residence. Economic development down at Aylesbury are opposing it. They do not welcome the loss of 726 square metres of C1 use. They say the applicant has not provided evidence that satisfied the requirements about policy E8, having property for sale for 12 months at a reasonable price, or to prove that the hotel is no longer needed. And they know there is a shortage of hotels in Buckinghamshire, particularly for tourism, and also regret the loss of the jobs for the number of people employed in distribution, hotels and restaurant sectors, which are lower than other parts of Buckinghamshire. The applicant has not provided that proof. In the view of the economic development team, they recommend that 12 months should apply. Fran?
I would just like to say that the loss of jobs with the current recruiting crisis within the catering industry, I think that's null and void, that argument. The Muddy Duck at Heath is just closed because they can't recruit any staff. There's a vast shortage of staff. You can't run a business like that without having them.
Yeah. Warren?
I thought they were going to be particularly pedantic about this, because I don't want to be set aside an objection to Audio Way, which is losing huge potential for job creation.
Yeah.
So they just feel like that they're being difficult for no particularly good reason. It's not the main shopping street of Buckingham. It was always a residential house originally, so if you go back to being a nice residential house, then that would be good for the conservation of it, rather than being left empty.
Anyone else? So I'll make a proposal that we have no objection to this.
Yeah.
Second, Anthony?
Yeah.
Thank you. Stick to Paul. All those in favour?
Unanimous acceptable.
Thanks for that, Warren. Right, item 3 is 55 Wells Street. This is a listed building application for removal of existing cupboards from upper rooms and reinstatement of walls. This can be taken together with the parallel listed building application for construction of a flood barrier.
I said specifically said, members are asked to note that the following two invitations are.
Separate proposals. Fine, thank you. Good, thank you for pointing that out. Heritage is happy with both of the applications. So if we do the first one, listed building application with removal of cupboards, upper rooms, reinstatement of walls. Anyone have any comments? Buckingham Society. No. You're happy? Thank you. I then propose we have no objection. Seconder, please. Anthony. All those in favour?
Again, everybody said.
And taking the listed building application, construction of flood barrier separately, this is a hardwood gate barrier with stone and brick surrounds to prevent water getting into the back of the building. Anyone have any comments? Lisa?
Will it stop the flood water? That's the biggest question. Will it stop it?
There was a comment at the briefing this afternoon that if we have a flood of the scale of the highest one, it would be over the top of the wall anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
We need to get most of it.
Yeah.
I think they're more bothered about that. They've got a basement
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm happy for it, it's just a question.
with a well in it, which can't help.
Warren,
Having stood in flood water outside that property back in the Christmas Eve floods, I do recall the issue being that no matter what we do at the front, it will come in the back first, so.
Yeah,
Anything that could help reduce their risk is certainly welcomed.
yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah, at the last meeting, we had a similar application for the similar house in Nelson Street, which was a front flood barrier because it came in the front there, not the back, yes. So, thank you. I propose then no objections.
Yeah.
Seconded by Anthony, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Moving on to item 5, number 4, Edging Lane on the Lace Hill. This is a householder application for loft conversion with roof lights to front and rear roof slopes and windows to gable. We have had a previous application. It's come back modified or amended. And Catherine has drawn our attention to the fact that is a condition, condition 9 of the permission for Lace Hill. There should be no windows added on any wall curtilage. Walls facing the curtilage that front onto any wall that fronts onto a highway. And this two of the sides on this house that is doing that. So it would break condition 9 if we were to approve it.
Yeah.
Anyone have any comment on this? Anthony.
Once we see there is a rule like that, do we have any option but to oppose it?
Ask our plan club.
Yeah.
Conditions are applied for a reason, and that is one that is universal over all the different phases of Lace Hill. They've got the same conditions attached to the approvals. Roger, you drew up the design guide.
Yeah, it's that condition is the withdrawal of the development rights. So it doesn't say you can't do it, it means that you need to apply for planning. So, yeah, so you don't want them on there, but if people want to add windows like they've done, they have to apply for planning permission, because normally that would be permitted development.
Right.
It's like, what do members feel?
That's a cool one, isn't it? Did everybody hear what Roger just said? As a code to that, it still looks awful, doesn't it?
So do we feel this would be damaging to the estate, safeguarding the amenities of the area? As Roger says, they can't do it unless they apply for permission to enable the local planning officer to consider whether planning permission should be granted.
Yeah, it was put there for a reason. I don't always agree with the reasons, but in this instance, I think with the pitch of the roof is quite steep, and therefore having skylights in, which are, verging on vertical. And, there's no dormers or anything put in to make it look pretty, or at least change the character of it. I'm inclined not to refuse it personally. Again, once we start doing it for one, then that gives others reasons to say, there's a precedent's been set here. So for that reason, on a new estate, I like to keep it as built, because it's not adding anything, it's just a window. If they were going to, put a dormer out of it or something, then it could change the character, possibly, but not as they are.
Right. Lisa?
The question is then, because they want to convert the loft into a bedroom, will they be stuck not being able to convert it into a bedroom if there's no windows? Okay.
Roger?
Just a thought, actually. if the big gable windows is, we look out of place. But if you wanted to offer a solution, in a gable like that, you could put in triangular windows at the top, so that they button the roof, so that it's quite often in barn conversions where you're putting a triangular window on top of the wall. So that would probably look better. But the other thing as well, looking at the Velux windows, is that do you need one that's big enough to follow the scope? If they're quite large, aren't they? You have to get a major escape. So well, then whilst you shouldn't put windows in there, or you need to apply for permission, I think that they could design it to in a better way.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? I'm rather persuaded by Martin's argument that it's not going to change the character of the estate hugely, so I would propose that we have no objection.
I have another thought.
Before it's seconded.
I would say off the wall, but it's a roof. What about the energy efficiency changes of this? Because in a loft these days, they have quite a lot of loft insulation at floor, well, ground level, floor level, whatever, or ceiling level. I wonder how, not being that sort of person that knows this, but I wonder how they then get around that when they obviously have to have the floor on the rafters then, so that lowers the insulation. Do they then put some higher spec thing in the roof area?
Yeah,
Just want to know.
Warren can answer that.
Yeah, I mean, all of that would be picked up in building regulations, so they may get planning approval to do this, but then they might find they can put space to actually make the building.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It could make the space so small because of the insulation that it doesn't really cut the mustard.
That's not a planning reason, of course.
No, but I was just thinking it through.
Yeah. So I made the proposal that, Fran?
I just think, like, just looking at it, like the two lights on one side and one on the other, when the rest of the house is pretty much symmetrical. Yeah, it just looks really odd.
Yeah.
The other comment, thank you. Somebody mentioned about a fire escape, and is that an issue then? That there's, so building regulations might fall foul of this, even if it goes through the planning, mightn't it?
Well, again, that would be a building regulation.
It's not a planning reason, but it doesn't look great, does it? And the other thing, mentioning insulation, of course, they're putting these Velux windows makes solar panels more difficult or less economic. We would be hoping to move in that direction.
Perhaps you could put solar Velux windows in. So, if we're there, once again, I propose that we have no objection. Anthony seconded. All those in favour of?
No objection.
No objection.
I thought we were objecting.
No, the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought, well, I'm going to object to it.
I thought you said that you didn't think it's a reason to refuse it.
No, I do think that it's a reason.
That's right, I misunderstood you, Martin.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a no from me.
Okay.
I propose to refuse it.
Where are we?
As we haven't voted on it, can I change my proposal?
Yes.
If Anthony's agreeable, then we now come back to, yes, we object on the grounds. All the grounds.
Well, it's visual impact,
Yeah, the visual impact on the
and
street things, yeah.
street impacts,
Yeah.
and it violates condition 9.
Yeah.
Sorry about the
Which we want to
confusion.
keep.
Anthony, you happy with that?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. All those in favour? We got that, everyone except Robin.
Can I just check, or are you happy? Just in case the householder is upset.
It was just a misunderstanding.
I'll just go and lie down in a dark corner.
No, carry on.
Thank you very much. Item 6, 41 Western Avenue, householder application for construction of a replacement garage. We discussed it at the briefing this afternoon. it's going to be replacing a wooden garage with a brick garage, which is slightly bigger, but they've got internal buttresses halfway along each sidewall, which makes it again the interior, the usable space size of the original garage, which is below Buckinghamshire minimum standard of 5 metres by 2.8. This would be 5 metres by 2.5.
Oh.
What do members feel about that?
Personally, I have a garage with internal buttresses and they're a pain in the proverbial. So I would advise them not to go down that route.
Anthony?
I do feel that if there is a current rule about a certain dimension, we should stick to those rules. Otherwise, the exceptions become the rules, and it makes a nonsense of having rules in the first place.
Yeah.
Whether we personally think it's this or that, I don't really think counts. I think the rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a minimum set by the local planning authority, so we should be supporting that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fran?
That garage was presumably built when cars were a lot smaller.
Yes.
And to make another garage which has got even less usable space seems completely facile.
Yeah.
You may only have a fee of 500, of course. But then
You've got to future-proof these things.
yeah, I think the other point, of course, is looking to the future. If this place was sold,
Yeah.
you then wonder what might
Yeah.
happen to a nice brick building
Yeah.
in the garden alongside the house. It's not actually
Yeah.
joined to the house, but
Yeah.
so my proposal is then we object to this on the grounds that it doesn't meet the minimum space requirement.
Yep.
For usable parking space. Seconded, all those in favour? Thank you. Move on to item 7, 5 Watchcroft Drive, which Margaret has declared an interest in. This is a householder application for single-storey side and rear extensions. This came to us at the last meeting as a certificate of lawfulness, because the permitted development rights haven't been removed in this part of Page Hill. We decided, we discussed this and just felt this was too big a development. Buckinghamshire Council agreed with us and refused the certificate as the extension would have been more than half the width of the original house. So it's now come back to us as a straightforward planning permission. The only difference since last time is the conservatory, which it was going to replace, has already been demolished. But that's not actually in the application. So I would propose no objections to this application. Seconded by Anthony. Those in favour? Right, Margaret abstaining, everyone else.
So that was an abstention from Margaret.
Yeah.
No neighbour comments or anything.
No, there's nothing on there.
No site notice, councillor Trice, the neighbours don't know yet.
Catherine will be putting obviously the usual disclaimer on the ones that haven't. Tonight's 14 applications, 8 of them have not yet had planning notices put up. That's how far ahead down. Right, we now move to number 8, which is 24 Chandos Road, the former dairy. Certificate of lawfulness application for a subdivision of a single C3 site to 3 separate self-contained units. There's also an industrial unit there. This is a retrospective application. This has been going on for something like 17 years. It was, so it bypassed everything. It's so it's there, it exists. Martin?
Well, as we've said around this table before, we get a bit narked with retrospective applications, but we are where we are. And has been said tonight about building regs. It's not part of the planning thing, but surely when something is taken into a business thing, they have different requirements like fire doors and wiring maybe and whatever. And this being retrospective, I'm just wondering whether any of that then kicks in. I fear not.
It's an office unit.
Yeah, does that not still have other things put on it because it's a business?
Well, I mean, that's up to the, I would have said that they've conducted it perfectly reasonably, and nobody has stuck pins in the local authority and said, "Oi, this man is doing this with this building for so long that he's actually."
Yeah, I understand that, but it was just
The commercial.
it's retrospective bit. You know, if we were looking at this first of all, would we think that would need to be done, or somebody else in the higher authority would say, but we need to have our regulation person out there to see whether you've done it to this standard. That's all I'm saying. Because it's retrospective. I know it's been a long time, I know it's that, but that's not the case. And that's, you know, it doesn't go through those other checks that would have done.
Well, I'm sure the local planning authority would have been on that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry, is he ready with us tonight? Such as maybe, you know, the party wall and you know, now there's two separate businesses there, maybe, and how, you know, they interact with the party dividing wall.
The ground floor is the office unit. There's a flat over that, which nobody seems to have bothered over much about. And then this end, it's 2 stories. It's effectively a lettable house.
It just seems a bit,
And then he's
you
got
know,
his own house.
complicated. It could be get
The old
complicated.
garage unit.
Yeah, it just seems complicated. And then my favourite one, of course, is refuge. Are they allowed to run their business and put it in the private green refuge bins, or should they have business refuge? You know, like,
Good question.
Project, yeah.
Mainly paper.
Anthony loves the end wall, we know that. That's the sole contribution from the Buckingham Society on this. But I can't answer your
It just
question.
seemed appropriate in our early discussion that, you know, we worry about these, let's take it out of a pattern book, and there's a beautiful example. I don't mean they should replicate that, but nevertheless, it does give you a bit of a clue as to what the place is supposed to look like.
So, has anyone got anything else to say? So I propose that we have no objection to this because it's all those in favour?
So that's everybody but the councillor.
No.
yeah, I'll abstain.
Abstain.
So just last question, Chairman, now you've agreed that. Was this the application, Councillor Ralph, that you were discussing brickwork on earlier?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to clear up. Because it is nice brickwork.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the application, but it was nice brickwork. So
Thank you. Over the page, item 9, 24 down and close. Householder application for a single-storey rear extension. This is an amendment to a previous approval. This is the house that's got the gap, isn't it, between the conservatory and the neighbour, which we're not happy about, but that would be a matter for building regulations. We have raised it previously. I propose no objections. Anthony seconded. Those in favour? That's everybody except
Point of order, Chair. Are we allowed to make a note that we still are unhappy about that soppy little space? May we do that, please?
yes, the planning clerk mentioned in
Yes.
her notes. So yeah.
Yeah.
Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just draw attention to it again. But it probably would become a matter for building regulations, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. I was just thinking, Chair, if I may, that at this point, the neighbours now may be aware or aware of what's happening. They might go and have a little look.
The notice went up last Friday.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Next, number 10 is 40 Ambleton Way. This is the household application for a garage conversion. There is not actually a plan of it.
For some reason that disappeared.
Yeah. So we'd like to pass that round. What's marked in red is how the garage has been moved forward. At the front of the garage, there will be windows, but there'll be fire escape windows. The door to it, the entrance door, will be from the front entrance hall, but this is a big but. The front door, when open, is across that entrance into the garage, to the converted garage, which may be of concern. Just let it go around the front and see. Anthony.
Thank you, Claire. That I was concerned about the obscuring the door with the front door when it's open. And the very moment when you need that front door to be open to escape the building, it's slammed open and promptly trap somebody inside. And yes, okay, there is a window for escaping, but the fact that they're doing this work would suggest that somebody who is either elderly or infirm in some way, are they going to be able to come leaping like Superman out of the window with ease? And I would have thought some more attention should be paid to that. But whether that's a reason to oppose it or not, I leave to others.
Yeah, we haven't been given enough detail in the application. I mean, how can we deal with this? Can we send it back and say we want more information on the
I think
safety aspects?
Yeah.
we can defer for further information, yes, if you wish. But I mean, they don't have to say why they want to do this. But and the fact that there's no bathroom arrangements with the converted garage room. So it's not like it's making granny flat or something for somebody with a disability. So it might just be that they want an extra bedroom.
Yeah, it could be for children as well. But again, Margaret.
Just a silly thing I've just noticed from the existing ground floor plan. Doesn't look as though there's a toilet in the downstairs at the moment.
So the same application. That's what I'm like.
What's the one before?
Yeah.
Is that the wrong one?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's
There are two downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the back of the big one.
well, my proposal then is that
Well, that's the same as my kitchen and garage. One opens
Get round there.
not quite onto the other one, but 3/4 of the way over it.
thank you.
Oh, you've got the same sort of setup. Oh,
So my proposal then
That's
is that
internal doors, not,
okay.
it's not a bedroom, sorry.
my proposal is that we defer the decision until we have more information on this door,
Yeah.
which is we still as a safety problem. Second of Anthony, all those in favour?
It is everybody, but yeah,
Thank you. Right, these may be considered together. The building, first before West Street, this is the building, has been a tea room and cafe, various things. It's a change of use of a classy restaurant into a Three Generous restaurant with a takeaway and drinking establishment. When you look at what Catherine's written about this, one has to ask the question, what on earth was happening down at Aylesbury? Why was it validated when the documents are so full of errors? You'll see from the website, everything is wrong about it. They didn't know if it's a listed building or not. Is it an ecclesiastical building? Don't know. It says police state house sewage is going to be disposed of. Don't know. Are you proposing to connect to the existing drainage system? No, etc., etc., etc. And they've got a lot of the things about the town centre wrong as well. It's a great concern. The salient points about it are seating for 23 people, which means that one toilet, which is suggested, would suffice. It would have to be for male, female, and staff. But there is no information on how they're going to extract fumes from the kitchen. That was the other concern. Environmental health has not yet responded, so we don't know their views on it. So again, I think probably we need to defer this until there's more information and point out that the application form is been filled in incorrectly.
Yeah, I agree, Chairman.
Martin.
Looking at the site map, the green area, which is an L, I'm assuming that goes into the light yellow, which is the way that they would put their refuge. Is it out the back? Because otherwise, how are they going to get rid of everything? I know it's been a tea room before, so they must have done something there, but being a restaurant is a bit more.
Is it actually a garden behind it, or
I don't know, you can't see.
on the site map here, they're just showing the green area behind
Yes,
it.
but I don't know whether it's actually a yard.
So that would be one concern, and as you say,
There is a response from waste and recycling, and I would have assumed that it wasn't an ABDC collection back in the day. I would have thought it was probably commercial.
Yeah. I think we need to defer.
We need quite a lot of questions on it. I propose that we defer this until we get further information and
Great.
the application form corrected.
Yeah.
and if I may continue, being a takeaway, I hate to tread, that is a narrow area there. We do not want anything, but of course, the police will not enforce anything. So it'll be left to us. So there'll be people up on the curb. It's not a planning concern, but it is a town concern.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's a for Domino's pizzas.
Yeah. This is a pinch point already.
Absolutely.
And quite often two vehicles can't pass. The one will stop and let the other through. So.
Don't get me wrong, I'd prefer this to be a going concern and somebody using it, but there are concerns about using it.
Yeah.
Roger, and then Fran.
Oh, so, I forgot what it was. I just noticed, it looks like there's an access to the back into the courtyard, which they might well leave their refuse out there. But the lorry obviously don't let them collect it, so they need to bring it into the front shop. But I agree with Martin about the cars up on the pavement. I think that would be a major problem. But it might be worth in the long term seeing what environmental health have to say.
Yeah.
Because and also heritage, because the frontage of this building is really attractive.
Yeah.
And so you don't. I noticed that they put in a sign, which is pretty awful. Yeah. So what we don't want is a community for the frontage of these buildings to be degraded in any way.
Yeah.
Can I ask what the difference between a Class E restaurant and a C generous restaurant with takeaway and drinking is, please?
The new use classes are quite complicated, but because it's got the takeaway element and it's also good, I presume the drinking establishment needs a bar, and there are 3 bar stools shown on the site and perched up. That's the thing. It's just that it's a several categories, so they just sui generis just means in a class of its own.
Okay. Thank you. Because it has been operating as a takeaway. Whether they have permission to be doing so is possibly.
It's not permission, was the
Yeah.
After the tea room closed, it was operating as a takeaway for quite a while. Yeah, until a few weeks ago when the newspaper got put up the windows.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it's has been doing that.
But it hasn't had a license.
That's worrying.
No, that's down to licensing, isn't it? That's not
That is worrying.
Nothing since 2013 on the planning history.
Yeah.
That's concerning that.
So we've raised a number of issues which Catherine's obviously noted. So again, I'll propose that we defer
Yeah.
the decision until we've got more information on
Yes.
everything.
Yeah.
Thank you. And add in, as Roger pointed out, about the takeaway parking problems. Thank you. Anthony seconded it. All those in favour?
Again, whichever one.
Thank you.
I've got a terrible trouble. So I was trying to-
Number 13, a lot of sun. This is 39 Bernardine's Way. It's the conversion of a 4-bedroom house to a HIMO consisting of 6 self-contained units with shared facilities and utility storage. This is retrospective. It's been going for some time. There's 2 ground floor flats, 3 on the first floor and 1 in the attic. Each has its own shower, sink and hob. It was a shared student house. In recent years it became HIMO. Highways have not made any comment yet on it. There's only 2 parking spaces in the court at the back, which are reserved, and the applicant said those are available on a first come, first served basis. There is quite a lot of parking space on the street in Bernardine's Way, but there was, when I went to look at it at 10 o'clock this morning. What it's like 6 o'clock in the evening when people are home from work, I don't know. It's already a HIMO. What the members think about it? Martin.
What can I say? It irks me because it's retrospective.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
God. When we can charge 1,000% on this, then maybe they could start thinking about it rather than just riding roughshod over everybody.
Certainly double the fees, I think, for
Yeah.
retrospective.
Yeah.
Double, no, 1,000, I said.
I know you. We know you're a fan.
We have asked this time and again at local planning authority forums, but they always say no, can't do it. Has to come from government.
Parliament.
I would say that I feel sorry for the other residents around there.
Yeah.
It was built as a 4-bedroom home. You know, the other people have moved in. It's got 2 allotted parking spaces. I know not everybody has a car, but if this was in other rules, then we would be wanting more car parking spaces. So I would say, sling your hook. No, I refuse.
There's this student accommodation, of course, and house opposite is also HIMO, number 19.
Even worse then.
Yeah, but that's licensed.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So you got one in that area, you can't have 2.
I think you've got to look at location. It's right next door to
To the uni.
the university, some very close annex.
Yeah, very good. Well done.
Yeah.
And your point is?
Right, anyone else any comments on this? Well, my proposal would be that we have no objection, but subject to highways when they eventually make a report on the parking. We can say that we're concerned about the parking. There's only 2 allocated spaces.
Yeah.
For sure.
Seconded by Anthony, those in favour?
That is everybody except for
Right.
Martin.
Abstentions? Martin, you're against, Martin?
I am against.
Right, okay. And those against? That's 1 against, Martin. Thank you.
No, Chairman, just on that, it's clear listening to your discussions today that there is a breadth of misunderstanding, concern and worries about growth in HMOs and how they're going to proliferate throughout the town. Would it be appropriate that we, as a committee, through you, Chair, we write to the licensing department, say we wish to have a full understanding, integrated conversation on how they're going to be pursuing this going forward, noting what we know, concerned about what we don't know, because people do need HMOs to live in. We need to have an understanding if there's a plan, how they're going to operate in major cities and towns. They actually plan where the HMOs might go, and they do a bit more around it. It seems like it's some areas are good, some aren't So I do think we need to understand it, because I've got a feeling that someday we'll have one in the real contentious area, and they're all going to come through that door and challenge us about it. So if we get forearmed and forewarned, I think that's a good idea. When it happens, how it happens, in what form it happens, we can't predict. But I do think we need to have an understanding.
Well, we started the ball rolling because earlier this evening under action reports, we gave us a list of those that are in Buckingham.
I listened to Councillor Try utter frustration with it. I do think that we should write have they got a policy, how they're going to proceed with Buckingham. Buckingham is a very different area, multiple types of development. We need to know. You could have a situation, the problem is that a whole street of HMOs, and it'd be easy to happen, and we'd be last to know.
I think the two questions that come from that is parking and recycling.
So we need to understand what their policy is on it, how they're going to pursue it.
You've got 6 different people sitting in a family home.
This is our objection to the latest one, of course.
Yeah.
Just going to say that there needs to be HMOs, because there isn't enough affordable housing for people to live in. Not everybody can afford to rent a whole flat. Particularly students, young people, etc. It's not an ideal living thing. Having lived in HMOs myself, it's not great fun. However, I think as Robin says, we do need to have some understanding of how Aylesbury are looking at the regulation of it. When I had my PERB, I was asked by my environmental health officer when he came down round and did an inspection if I had any staff living in with me in the flat, because if I hadn't done, I would have had to have registered that as an HMO. Because I would have had people other than with my family members living in my flat. It's quite a complex thing, and yes, it is contentious because people don't want rabbles of students or whoever living next door to them when they've bought this nice 4-bedroom detached house. In a nice street, and all of a sudden somebody buys next door and converts it, but there's got to be somewhere for people to live.
Yeah, is everyone happy with Robin's suggestion?
I mean,
Sorry, Chair, what exactly is the proposal?
I'm proposing that we write to Buckinghamshire Council Licensing Department to gain an understanding how they wish to and what their plans are in managing HMOs going forward, and to seek any advice and understanding how they're going to do that. If they come back and say, well, we haven't got any plans, we haven't thought about it, well, then that's something I'll follow after. But I think that we do need to understand how they're going to do it, because all the points being made by members, Brand's absolutely right, we do need HMO for people who can't afford it.
Ideally, we would have proper accommodation for everybody. We wouldn't need to have
HMO, but as we do need them, and Martin's absolutely right to raise the points about the concern. I think he's talking about the other point that Fran raised about where they live. So how you word that and how we do that, and whether that's an officer to officer meeting on Teams, whether that's somebody coming to a planning meeting and giving us a talk about how they're going to manage it, that really for us to investigate what they wish to do. I'm sure if South Bucks asks for anything, they'll get it. So I think, and with certain estates in South Buckinghamshire, there was an HMO, there would be a major discussion of it. So I think that North Bucks should at least get a conversation about it. I don't want to pass judgment on anyone.
Because we could use this as an example, saying there's 2 bays that was created for this property, but we don't know how many of the HMO residents drive. So that could cause an issue. If it was a family home being built now, with that many people living there as separate units, they would need more parking.
And And if they do demonstrate there's a need, well, we can put it in the neighbourhood plan when we're writing it, where they're actually placed. So we can start placing HMOs in proper settings with proper parking and proper places for people from the onset. You know,
Build studio flats.
exactly.
So Robin's
Perfect
made,
spell. Yeah.
Robin's made a proposal, could I have a second?
Yeah.
Martin, you were very quick.
He's on fire tonight.
Exactly.
So all those in favour that we do that,
That's everybody.
well done, including councillor Flush.
Yeah, I couldn't vote on the application, but I listened to you.
No, thank you, Robin, that's point well made. Amended plans, this is 118 Morton Road, householder application for single story side and rear extension. They've changed it slightly, insertion of roof lights, single story, flat roof side extension and addition of render to external walls. Everyone happy with this? It's a fine change, thank you. I propose that we have no objection, seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? And finally, on the plans, not for consultation,
Can I just ask, are we still putting in the electric vehicle charging points and solar panels and grey water recycling clauses that we used to put in when we were making comments on applications? Do we still do that?
Not automatically.
No.
And I mean, obviously, it was mentioned in the meeting, yes. but-
Yeah. That's
As a
not
standard
normally
thing,
councillor
you know, I mean,
Harvey's good role, isn't it?
And no objections is a tick in the box,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there are no space for comments for no objections.
Yeah.
But on the grounds that they have to abide by the neighbourhood plan policies, it would be.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. So not for consultation, this is Oakwood Six Manor Gardens. It's a crown reduction of between 20 and 30% to a Rabinia. Kathleen has made the point that there is some confusion over the trees, so the Rabinia itself is not a. Doesn't have a
The
tree.
protection order doesn't cover a Rabinia in any form.
Yeah.
It does, however, cover a Norway maple, which is in roughly the position marked on the plan provided, and which is mentioned in the tree surgeon's report, but not included in the description. So I have asked Aylesbury if they would just kindly decide which sort of tree it is and whether it's protected or not, and do we have to bother if it isn't?
So we defer our decision on that one until we get that information.
I mean, a Rabinia and an ash, quite different trees, and a maple is completely different again. At least a Rabinia, it has the same sort of leaf, you know, lots of different ones coming off one stalk, whereas a maple is.
Oh, yeah.
Martin?
We've had this problem with TPOs before. It seems to be a lack of GPS granularity to identify the exact location, which is fine because a lot of things don't go down that spacing. But when I go around estately homes and gardens, which of course I do every week, you know, to visit my family.
Is there something you haven't told us about?
Yeah, I've got a few HMOs on them. They do have plaques either strapped or stuck in the ground next door to them or on them, you know, to identify them and maybe give some information. So why does this not happen with a TPO so that it's easily identifiable?
I think it does with new ones, but some of these are quite old. Some of the trees are quite old.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a remnant of the Maids Morton Avenue, the top end before Morton Grange was built. And so the TPO predates Morton Grange, which is now probably pushing 40 years old.
So, could I or could someone find out whether there is a policy of
It does mean that the
TPOs?
I mean, it means that they've got to do a tree survey, which they are in the process of doing. But whether they're actually tagging on the trees when they've surveyed them, I don't know.
Or maybe if I find that out, we could
could
see whether Buckingham Town Council could do it for our little area.
Because our year of the tree, of course.
And drive forward, you know, a good, robust policy.
Margaret?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's great when trees are labelled, but these trees are in somebody's garden. So is it quite difficult to do?
It's called scrub pit.
Anthony,
Just a thought, Chair, there's a rather nifty programme you can put on your phone or whatever called What Three Words?
Yeah.
And this is a programme where the people who've created it have divided up the whole world, literally the whole world, into 3 by 3 metre squares, and each one is represented by 3 random words. And you can go and stand absolutely anywhere and run this, and it will tell you precisely the 3 random words. You can then email that to somebody, they can look it up and know precisely where you're standing. The joy of that is it doesn't need postcodes, it doesn't need anything except standing where you want to identify. You can do it inside a building, in the middle of a field, and I would thoroughly recommend anybody and everybody who want to accurately pinpoint things to use this programme.
I've been mentioning it for ages, TCE recently, I mentioned it again.
Yeah.
I've got it on mine.
Yeah, a lot of emergency services are using it now regularly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
So as long as you're not in a block of flats.
I do accept your honesty.
Doesn't help with an application that has misnamed the 3.
No, it doesn't. But it does highlight the fact that the man with a chainsaw, if he knows precisely what she needs to mangle, he knows where to stand.
Yeah.
So, as you've heard, Catherine's already referred this back to Aylesbury for more information, so nothing we need to do on that tonight. Planning decisions, just to check, we opposed putting a timber roof over the plant in the communal garden at Canterbury Court. That was approved. The workshop, Tindrick Road, retrospective application for erection of fence and shed. We opposed this on the grounds that the fence was too high for one of the major entrances to the town at the bottom of Tindrick Road. It has now been withdrawn, so it's gone back to enforcement, who've reopened their case to enable the site to be restored to its previous state. They've got 6 months to do it. So.
Yeah, well, they've only had that fence up since 2017.
The other application that was refused is Watchcroft Drive, but as we've heard, that had a certificate of lawness replaced by a planning application, which we okayed tonight. And likewise, for Edging Lane, that certificate of lawfulness was replaced immediately. The planning inspectorate, I think you probably all know by now, but the prospective application for a fence at One Hydra Close just off Moorhen Way has been dismissed. The appeal's been dismissed by the inspector. Said the development causes unacceptable harm to the character and appearance of the surrounding area, in particular policy BE2 of the Vale of Aylesbury Local Plan. Among other matters, the policy requires development to respect physical characteristics of the site and its local distinctiveness and the vernacular character of the locality. You can't say much more than that.
Good.
So that fence will have to come down, and the inspector also said that it should be replanted with the plants that were taken out there.
Yeah.
Martin.
Just remind me where this is.
More should have never. Well then,
Okay, that one, yes.
yeah.
Were they fenced in the triangle?
No.
Oh,
That's not like.
Different one.
different one.
Further into the heartland and almost at the back of it.
Okay.
On the cricket pitch side.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Opposite where John Harvey lives, more or less.
I don't know where that is.
No. If you go into the main entrance of the heartlands and you keep turning right, you end up at either eventually.
Okay.
Before you just get to the back bit.
Okay, thank you very much.
But he put up he'd taken down a wall and put up a fence along a link path and taken out all the shrubbery, and we suspect fence on the outside of where the public shrubbery was.
Right.
The inspector's told me he's got to reinstate it all.
Good.
I bet he
So, item 8, consultation on infrastructure levy. This is one that Catherine did circulate to everybody a couple of meetings ago. Nobody, to our shame, replied. So how did it go? I'm going to have to say here and now, I've had a look through and I do not understand it. I'm able to answer about 2 of the, how many questions are there? A lot.
I asked Catherine that same sort of thing and it was beyond my level of pay range.
Yeah, that's the point I made.
I'll take it to explain it to me tonight.
I can tell you what questions I could answer. Do you agree that the views of local community should be integrated into the drafting of an infrastructure delivery strategy? Yes. Please provide a response to explain your answer. I said levies should be like Section 106 and of mitigation. And then they said, do you agree a spending plan in the infrastructure delivery strategy should include identification of what's required? Yes. Identification of this infrastructure? Yes. Prioritisation of the infrastructure and how a levy should be spent? Yes. Approach to affordable housing, including the right to require proportion and tenure mix? Yes. After that, I lost the will to live.
Some of them are all right. I mean, I looked at it after afternoon. If you can send the link again, I think that some of them you can have a go at in the sense that they're badly worded, Chairman. In the sense they're not worded in plain speech, like 9. Do you have a levy should be capital valued at lift associated with the permanent development rights of the creative new dwelling? Well, it will be yes, because you want it to be reaffirmed into the plan. It's just not very well written. It's not wrote in English, in plain English. Thanks. You're absolutely right, Councillor Murray. I think it's the way it written, sorry, me saying wrote, that's exactly why you need people who can write. But it is written, and then you get down to 10. Do you have a view about the approach to value freehold and qualification of permanent development? Well, you would have a view, wouldn't you? You would even think that you want people to have freehold over leasehold. So I mean, it's just very badly worded. Having read lots of very badly worded documents, especially medical NHS documents, if you want to read a badly worded document, look at anyone from the NHS. It's always wrote in probably good and foreign speak. Nothing that I can work out. But I do think you could have a go at this. And how important is it, Catherine, we get this response to them?
Well, NALC have asked for various councils to produce their responses for them to pull together and give us a NALC response. But it is a government consultation, so we can go, I mean, we can do both, or we can do one or the other.
We should certainly show willingness to something.
I think, Chairman, going back to number 12, that's a very loaded question. In a sense, should the government want infrastructure levy to be collected more existing systems to minimise the impact and the viability of a strong and agreeable following so levels the project. Now, you couldn't draw a conclusion of that. I do grant you is that in that it should be of a local dimension, because some of these things you have to worry about that when you've agreed it, they're going to then pull the levy at a central place, and it won't actually be Buckinghamshire Council or us, but they'll be pulled somewhere else. So I think that we do need to sort of try and fill in a bit more than the ones you said, but that one's absolutely right, isn't it? Even with the garbled brain that I've got, I still found that to be absolute rubbish. But
well, I'm happy to let Catherine have my responses, which I'll do. I know John Harvey has got a couple, I think, hasn't he?
Well, that would be interesting.
How long have we got?
John gets
this week, or I can do it tomorrow, but just
we've got until mid-May.
Oh right, okay,
we've got time.
Yeah.
But we haven't got a meeting before mid-May,
Exactly.
So I do need as many answers as possible, as soon as possible.
So can we?
If you're going to respond as a committee, then it does need to be, our response needs to be agreed by the committee.
Yeah.
Not just send individual emails and then fill it out and say it's our committee's response.
What we've done usually is that members fill in what they can, send it to me. I produce a consensus and then circulate it for agreement.
Bring it through email.
Because otherwise
we're putting a corporate response.
Either we do it tonight or we do it that way, because we haven't got a meeting.
Their own responses if we're not going to agree a corporate response.
We do not want a council response.
Members are obviously
There's 40.
to submit your own, yeah.
There's 44 questions.
The other option is potentially I ask Gina if you can spare some time to have a look at it and put a professional to, and if you're prepared to devolve it to officer response. On the grounds that it is very much Gina's expertise.
Robin.
I think it's neither or as. Seen these consultations a few times on various things. There's nothing that's going to be so important to Buckingham as the infrastructure levy in the local plan. It's clearly, as the chairman's indicated, that filling this in tonight is going to take too long. I think there has to be a halfway house. I think what Catherine said is been custom and practice that I'd like to support, that we send our thoughts into Catherine, who makes them available to Sheena, and then delegate Sheena to fill it in. And then she's got an understanding of the views of the members when she's doing it. That way, it is more inclusive. What I'm not happy is to not include the chairman's views and spend some time on this and other members here. So if that's a way forward, I'm happy. But we send them to Catherine, she sends them to Sheena, and then we ask Sheena to write the plan, the response.
Okay, so you are devolving to Sheena?
Yeah, but I'm asking for members, if they've got the time, the will or the mental patience to add something to it. So that
This is why I sent it well in advance.
I know, and I have to apologise, Catherine, I haven't actually looked at it with all the other things I've looked at. And having looked at it tonight, I could have done better. But I haven't. I admire the chairman doing what he's done.
So to regularise it then, Robin's proposed that. Could we have a seconder?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lisa, thank you. All those in favour then, that is what we follow. Thank you. Is that clear, Paula?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for that, Tony. Right. I'm waking up dreaming about this.
Don't do that.
Buckinghamshire Council Matters. Robin, we haven't heard much from you tonight.
I'll try to put a stop to that then, Tim. Personally, I've been useful and deliberate what things try specific planning. I've been to Cabinet, which I'm waiting for the written response, which I'll give to Catherine when it's published. It isn't published yet. Yeah, with the Cabinet, they're waiting for that. But I've got to get some of this written responses to. The question on educational planning, I know those who are school governors will be interested in this response. The Cabinet member in their response about planning gave a mixed message in the sense that they said that the short term, medium term, the junior places they're going to use and their policy is, and they will use money to grow the classes in Page Hill, which is now Buckingham Primary, and the grower class in the Mays Morton School. So what they're planning to do is actually grow their educational need that they've foreseen in junior places there. That's probably because they are LEA schools and the other schools are academy schools. And that might be why they are, and that's why they're allocating it to. On secondary education, it's much more confusing in the sense that they recognise that there's going to be a growth. They're not willing to make the figures that I've seen public, but they recognise that there's a growth. What they've said in the short term, they're looking to grow a batch bulk class to bulge. That's it. That's the word. Bulge classes are going to go into Winslow, 2 bulge classes to replace the 6, because they haven't got 6 form there now. They've come out, so they're going to grow bulge classes there. And then they're going, Cottesloe have got 1 extra class in Cottesloe, of which they believe they're going to make that a permanent secondary feature. Now on Buckingham School, they've said that they're in discussions about investing and growing some additional place in Buckingham School, and that they recognise there. What they didn't say or recognise is their transport to school policy, and their which basically would suggest that the overspills in the places in Buckingham School are going to be met through Cottesloe and Winslow, which isn't very good for the environment, let alone the children travelling there. They also said they had no control over outer county places. Buckingham School being so successful now, it's attracting quite a high percentage of out of school places. And what the cabinet member said in their response through the legal officer was they cannot refuse if they in a year, if they've got a space, they can't turn that away to a person who wants to come in. So that's very confusing. So I think we need to see the written response and look at it. It does have an actual bearing on our deliberations around our local plan, which rather brings to the conclusion that I do think we need to sit down as a council, separate to that, with Buckingham School to try and assist them in any planning that they're doing, because I don't really want the thought of children finishing school and going off to Winslow on a bus if they don't want to. And if they want to go to Winslow School, that's fair. Or Cottesloe seems a very long way away. So that's negative. Other matters that I've been chasing down is around the question of delivering neighbourhood plans, which how they're going to do that and how they're going to work that with local plans. I've got a very sort of nuanced answer that they're going to talk to town and parish councils and they're going to listen. So basically, it was a pretty useless answer, but I'm waiting for the actual Growth and Infrastructure Committee, which I rocked up to by accident one morning, and after submitting a written question, because under the council structure you have to submit a written question to be able to enter the building. So we've done that, and then on another thing which is come to this council and this committee, I think, remember we had residents come forward raising, I know Margaret would be interested in this, the nitroxide dioxin levels on the A421, and it was very difficult for this council to be able to answer those questions. We're not the planning authority and we're not the highways authority, so I've gone away and asked questions around the nitroxide. It appears they've got no intentions of measuring it. They haven't got any plans to. I wrote to the officer who hadn't come back to me after the meeting, because they said there was some equipment that we could borrow to measure it. That hasn't come back. So what they're actually saying is effectively going to our previous work we've done together on question, which is to do with the A421 uplift. They've got no intention of establishing what the mean level of the pollution on that road is, while they're planning to construct theoretically an extension to the A421, which is very concerning to me, because we do need to know that it would be a really good reason in any delivery to move the road away from the houses, to try and move the pollution away from the properties. So I've got some more work to do on that, and when I get the written responses, I'll bring them here. For this week, you will be aware that it's probably environment really, or I'm questioning the council about their licence on alcohol licence in the town centre for events. I'm hoping to get a written response to that at council. I'm also will be questioning them on a wide range of fronts. So when I said earlier, but anyway, if I say it earlier, I need to say it now, do I? But yeah, basically, I've got a whole rack of questions in there for tomorrow, written questions, to try and knead down on some of the facts that we haven't got answers to. So the business, one of them being the skate park, that I did write in my written question. I've been trying to get a proper answer since February, and it does look like that answer is going to be quite nuanced and quite bad for us. So I'm hoping that if we can look tomorrow, you get that answer. As I said earlier, and I think that'll probably be enough, because we've got a very long evening, and I'll just carry on talking about something else, which I have done. I hope those are interesting. I'm trying to make it more to do with this committee than a general one,
No problem.
you know.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone have any questions? No, Robert, thank you very much for that report. Buckinghamshire Council Matters, 9.2 is to give you a verbal report on the quarterly forum meeting, or myself and Catherine, we both attended it online. Basically, we heard about performance figures for January and March 2023, 3,036 applications received, 64% of which were valid on receipt. 2,869 of those were determined. That figure is actually bigger than the applications received in the previous 2 quarters, and 68 appeals. Enforcement, a lot of good news from them that they're still working hard. There's 20 enforcement officers across the county. What's not so good is that the digital list we were promised of that we could go online and see what's going on. The register is now complete, but it's only of a list of notices served, not a live portal, so the public cannot monitor progress of reports on enforcement, which is what we're hoping to happen. So it's not like when we go on the planning board, we can see where things are at. Catherine can still, if she wishes, find out individual enforcement matters, but that's going live on May the 1st. Where Buckinghamshire is third in the top of National League tables after Brent and Westminster for enforcement, which is quite impressive.
Doesn't say much for the others, does it?
It doesn't. It's lived near Brent as well, it doesn't.
Buckinghamshire Local Plan, again, they just stress that call for sites, which I mentioned at the last, after one of the last infrastructure meeting, was 1,000. We now know that was 300 brownfield sites and 700 greenfield sites, which is a bit of an imbalance, but those sites will be visited and assessed for suitability. Some may not tick all the boxes, some may have been put forward by third parties, i.e. not the site owner. Questions, I asked, I put a written question to them about these quarterly planning forums should be face-to-face, because there are so many people attending them now, they've become unworkable. There are actually 50 people on Zoom at this one we had last week. Although the meeting ran much better than the January one, they said, oh, it's not really, you know, they puffed and puffed a bit and said it's not that easy for everyone to meet. But they did say an annual face-to-face meeting could be called perhaps in the spring or summer, retaining the others online because it's easier time-wise and more efficient. And I made the point that's not what the forums are for. They're for all the councils in the county to meet up, talk about things, share issues. I said, well, perhaps then the answer would be to split the meetings into north and south, as our problems are different. Oh, well, we're reluctant to do that. Well, we recognise the geographical distances, but the next meeting will be at Aylesbury, it will be face to face. So we have had a victory, a minor victory.
So you'll be going down the highway.
And my guest, Roy van der Pol, and I were talking about it afterwards. He supported me in this, that probably they might come round to our way of thinking if enough people at this meeting, they should do that. A couple of things, we got some information on the county plan, the local plan, which we were told by Peter Strachan at the infrastructure meeting would be ready by the end of June 2025. Asked how realistic this was. The forum was told it's not realistic, it's not reasonable. We're having to use the new system when the levelling up and regeneration bill becomes law. So that means it will take it past 2025. There was also a question from Cadbury on the implications of the government abandoning its 300,000 houses a year target. The answer came back, it wasn't mandatory, it was only a manifesto target. The white paper mooted it, but it didn't get carried into the levelling up and regeneration bill. And on Monday morning, Michael gave it to the Times saying, We are still on target for 300,000 houses a year.
Wow.
Margaret?
Yeah, can I just ask, thank you for that report. What are the implications for us of the delay in the Buckinghamshire plan? You know, because are we in a sort of limbo, or we're still working with Val? or-
Yeah, the new Val and the Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan are both still the dominant plans, but they're.
But does it leave us in a state?
If we finish and get it done before the Buckinghamshire plan, we'll have a short period of being top dog, and then theirs will supersede it. What we were hoping was that they'd get it done and then we'd get it done, and we would then supersede them.
So we shall see. Robin?
Very interesting. I'm sure tomorrow that when I bring a cabinet member that he's informed everybody in the parishes that he's not going to meet his Buckinghamshire plan target, that he hasn't bothered to tell the entire Buckinghamshire Council. I'm sure tomorrow he will enjoy answering that question, because when he's pressed and put, we haven't been given that information. That hasn't, to the best of my knowledge, and I'll check tomorrow with a phone call, been gone to the Growth and Infrastructure Committee, haven't been informed. Who's a select committee, who's a governing body overlooking these plans. The fact that he's willing to make those statements in a meeting, which I take as to be true, because you've said them, Mark, and they've got to be true, that he's now informing people against the plan, which he's informing the council members that he's going to actually achieve, is quite concerning. There's several things why it's quite concerning. Margaret's absolutely right to bring up the way it works with the local plan, is because if we put our plan in, we cannot put decent policies around the infrastructure levy, which we need to move to make sure that that money comes to the parish. 25% of the levy comes to parish, and what system it's going to be under. So it raises a whole spectrum of concerns around our local plan and delivering our local plan with that uncertainty. And also that it was when Buckinghamshire Council was a legal entity, it had to write a development plan by 2025. So I think it would be something we need to check that I'm correct. But that was an agreement with government when the bill went through legislation to actually make the council legal. Part of that stuff was to do a plan. The fact that they feel they can drift away from it because the government of the day, let's not say their government, that's what it is, has made such a dog dinner of planning and everything through whatever, seems quite concerning. So I am very worried doing that. And the other point you raised about the sites. Now, I think it would be prudent for Sheena to write to them to get an aspiration of where these sites are. Because they're having a discussion about sites, right, Chairman? And if I'm sorry, I'm going like a bit, it is important because they're having a discussion about sites. Remember, the only people who's discussing these sites presently are a subgroup of councillors, which happens to be your chairman of the planning committees, the ones that don't meet, of course. Our one never meets, and the strategic development hardly meets, and South Bucks, I just heard today, they hardly meet as well. But they're probably having too long planning the development plan. And your cabinet members and your senior planning officers. So all these sites are amongst a privileged amount of people.
No, we do know where they are, Robin. We've been shown them already.
You've been shown them?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an interactive map on the website, which we had up on the big screen at the last neighbourhood planning meeting.
Yeah.
Well, again, Catherine, you've rewarded me greatly, because when we attended a briefing, that information was not capable of being made to the elected members.
It's even coloured differently for Greenfield and Brownfield
Yes,
site.
but it did it specific. I've seen a map with dots on it, but that was not public information we were allowed to take away from that meeting. So it's really concerning, isn't it? It's got elected members of Buckinghamshire Council who are not being given the information that they're giving it to charities. I mean, that's fantastic. Used to be you could never find anything out. But I'm sure all those people in Gerald Cross and different places and South Buck, when I bring them up tonight, will be quite interested to find out that there are now.
The towns and parishes now know there's a map, but obviously Shire councils.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think it's fantastic. You've really helped me tonight for Wednesday.
I'll get Louise to send you the link.
I do need, can I have the link? Because I need to be standing on concrete and have the notes of what you said, because I think Peter and me may be having a discussion.
Yeah,
If I
Peter
get.
wasn't at the meeting.
Peter wasn't at the meeting. Peter will be really pleased.
Nor was Steve Bambrick.
Never still Steve Bambrick really pleased to have a discussion then. But is it actually Peter's
I
board?
can tell you, we can tell you exactly who was at the meeting. It was run by Darren Eggleton, head of planning,
I
and
don't want to know the officers, but
Chrissy Uri, she was there.
yeah.
Otherwise, that John Chestham, Buckinghamshire Local Plan Officer.
If you can send me a note to that, and I'll prepare something so that I get it at least neon for the meeting and don't enjoy myself too much.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Catherine might have something to add. What I was telling you.
No, that's good.
We've covered everything, have we? We've upset
There
Robin.
was,
so-
Yeah, but exactly. You've given me something to.
Anyone have any questions?
there was a question from Chalfont St Giles. They had two people there. That they don't get notified about vast applications on their boundaries. So they actually found out from a resident that they were going to have a development of 900 to 1,000 houses just outside their boundary, which was going to lean on their infrastructure and neighbourhood. Do you know what the answer was? Well, you don't put it on social media, surely you look at that.
Really?
That's painful, not 100 houses. Crap.
Yeah, I think one was Charlton St Giles, yeah, it's Charlton St Peter. I think that was the.
Her strapline at the bottom, so St John's,
What's the date of that meeting?
70.
20th of April.
Yeah.
That's why it's verbal, because it was last Thursday, it's up, the agenda had gone out.
Right. There's no video of that.
Right,
No,
no, but there will be
slides,
slides.
but you can have my notes in.
Thank you.
It was organised by PKM. So. Right, finally, an updated list of undecided proposed and intent corner applications held over the next meeting. Updates from representatives on outside bodies. Any of those? Anthony, you have nothing to add tonight?
No, as is normal practice, Catherine was kind enough to ask if there was anything, and I haven't been to a meeting, there hasn't been one, so I thought there was nothing to say.
Is the consortium anywhere near getting a secretary?
I've not heard, there's been a bit of a deathly silence in the code. I've got plenty of other organisations I'm involved with who seem quite lively, so they take up my time quite happily.
Fine. Right, Buckinghamshire Council Committee meetings, North Bucks Area Planning Committee met on the 5th of April. There were no Buckingham applications, and strategic sites met on the 13th of April, no Buckingham applications. Item 12, enforcement to report any new breaches. Anybody have any? Robin?
We did meet this month. It was an amazing occasion, first time since 2020.
It doesn't say cancelled, it says no Buckingham applications, that's it.
No, we did meet. I mean, just let you know we met. To discuss the council.
Third time since last July.
First time since last July. It was lovely to familiarise myself with the council.
The towns and parishes charter at work, isn't
Let's see what I
right, no new breaches as we
No.
12.2, to note a new case file has been created for Oddfellows Hall, change of use from student accommodation, short-term Airbnb type lettings. So that is in the pipeline.
Yes, adjacent parking.
But park on double yellow line, so no one trouble. Oh, good. Right, this closure.
As well, it was, that's a lot, wasn't it? I didn't look at it up. No, we're talking £100 for the weekend.
Yeah, this was a minimum of 28 weeks, isn't it? One of them. You'll notice some closures of cases. I won't read through them on the list. rolling lists, pre-filling, land grant, calling requests, all hold over to the next meeting. Matters to report, any damage, superfluous, redundant signage in the town, access issues, or any other urgent matters. Anthony.
I thought of it just as I came in the scene, and that wretched great pothole right by the entrance to the car park just outside here. Might be worth us making a note about that, just to add to the general push to get that fixed.
Yeah, it's been on Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah, quite horrible.
Where is that?
Literally outside here, just at the entrance.
Yeah.
And if I may be indulged, when you come out of the park, you've parked and you come out, there's a sign, and I forget what it says on the other side off the top of my head, but it makes quite a blind spot and completely blinds the vision display. I stuck the bonnet of the car out, and there was a car just coming into the blind spot. My lightning quick responses were in play, so I was okay. But nevertheless, it occurred to me that
we did raise
we
that
ought to do something.
at least 5 years ago, and nothing was ever done about it.
Perhaps we could.
When they changed the layout of the car park,
Yeah.
we complained about that new signage. It's exactly the same at Tesco. If any of you come out of Tesco, they've put up the McDonald's driving sign, so you can't see it's coming out of the Tesco car park.
Yeah.
Martin.
On the same signage, but the other side of the road, the signs by the emergency exits from the community centre are very low to the fact that if you are walking along, you could inadvertently
Hit your head.
hit your head, exactly. Yes. And of course now, well, not of course, but we've probably got some more elderly people coming across at that point. And I was just wondering whether we ought to think about getting those lifted a bit.
Where exactly
Yeah, I don't know.
do you mean?
Well, you have the community on the corner, you have the community centre, and just in from the corner, coming towards the zebra crossing or zebra crossing towards Waitrose, you've got a sign before the double door output of the community centre. There's, I forget whether it's 1 or 2 posts, but they've got signs on there. And they are at eye height, actually.
Yeah.
And they need to be moved a bit. I know you can't take into account very tall people, but they are average height eyes.
Probably why I haven't noticed it.
That'd be why I've not noticed them. Yeah.
Very tall, man.
I don't know whether, well, no, it came about because of the age concern was exiting from there.
Yeah.
And there were lots of people, worrying about walkers and pushchairs, and they were looking, and this thing is not of a good height.
Okay, that's Catherine, you can have a look.
No, on the way.
Robin?
Car parking signs, they're all suburbias and of no use now, because they've all got the wrong prices on them. And I know they've got stickers on there, but it looks like a child of 6 has printed them off. And put very small stickers on it. So I think that we should write them and say that the signs need to be removed, because they don't actually say anything anymore. It is a legal necessity that you get having little stickers on there, and the people are going like that, and you go like that isn't really satisfactory. And a notice against it: parking charges were introduced a month ago. They'll soon be putting them up again next precept, and the signs have become redundant again. So I think we should write to them and ask them to get the right things on it, because when people visit the town, there's a couple were today when I went to pay, they were really having a job to work out what they got to pay.
Did you find a parking meter that was working then?
That's another one. It did work in the corner, the one I was trying. And that's that. And the other thing I think we do need to get clarity on is and it was a topic on Facebook. I didn't join in, but I listened. I did join in actually, but not for the same reason. There was a topic about signage on the road outside the town hall. It just still say loading and unloading on the road, which someone brought up the point, was that valid as it's been blocked off? So I think we need to get clarity over that, because to do anything, I'm no expert of highway law, but to do any change in an area, all the signage never has to match what you've done the change. So it appears that it still says loading and unloading on there.
It's private land, isn't it?
No, it isn't all
Not
private.
on there.
Not all of it, okay.
No, you don't
And
get
it's actually on the
we don't-
road, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
actually on the road, it says loading.
an unloading, and what it's actually saying is contrary to what seems to be going on there at the moment. And so, and we won't get into the discussion about what's going to happen with the plants. That's presumably will be dealt with by the office if and when that scheme comes in, which we've offered to support, not do. But I do think the signage looks wrong. It should be corrected. If it's not legal.
Okay, we'll have a look at that.
Photograph says moving.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you know,
Excellent.
that was on Facebook, someone was going on.
I think talking about car park, as Secretary said, they need to paint the directional signs in the car park, because there's so many cars going opposite direction, and of course then.
Okay, that's faded.
And the only other thing is maybe not an enforcement, but I don't want the Buckinghamshire Council to make the parking meters phone app only, like some of the councils are doing. They need to be able to accept coins.
You have to have an aging population.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do.
But they cannot handle it. You can stand there some days, the poor people trying to do it on the phone, and it does not work.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Anyone else? Like, I've got one. As you all know, we've had 2 weeks of disruption down in Nelson Street. Road closures. We've now got 2 weeks of disruption that started today, Bridge Street. That's going to be closed daytime until the 9th of May. The main diversion is down Chandos Road. I tried to use it today. They've still got parking both sides of Chandos Road, so only one car can get through. I was one of 10 cars waiting to go that way, and there's about 10 cars coming towards us. And if they're going to make a diversion and close a major route, then they've got to make some no parking areas, so traffic can use it. It's just the nonsense. It's Chandos Road and Station Road.
Yeah.
It's bad enough without having the traffic coming into town, then diverted through that. But Roger first.
No, that's what they do. Straight. I just saw the sign the other week.
What are they doing? Giggle.
Yeah, they reckon.
It was angry and water on Friday for one day.
Oh, right, that's
It's now Giggle for 2 weeks.
So you're not going to, I thought it was, you might be doing some pothole thing.
Nothing useful like that.
So that was the Friday, was it, Chairman? Because
It was a one-day closure, which
right, because I thought they could do better today, and they removed it over the weekend, because there they had it at after the bridge, where of course all your options of moving around were severely restricted. Where now they've got it before the bridge,
Which way?
which is at least a lot better.
Going
But
which
it's
way?
going from the roundabout Cannon Corner, they've stopped it outside the White Hart, all the way down to the bridge, over the bridge.
Over the bridge.
So to Cannington's basically.
To Cannington's.
Where on Friday, Anglia Water just did it between the White Hart and the Turkish hairdressers. Of course, when you reach, you go, oh, the only way is turn left, and that of course was like chaos.
No, we were given fast notice of all 3 closures.
Yeah, we were, but
Yeah.
everybody else wasn't, you know.
Robin?
I think if anyone's got diaries, please write down in your diary day they dig the road up, because Bolton Road, if you go down Bolton Road, you'll see that where they did the trenching last beginning of spring, summer, breaking up now, and all the actual roads breaking up either side of the trenching. If you go out as you come off the roundabout where we've got the plonking manhole cover, which nobody comes back to mend, even though it's reported. That where the utility firm dug up the road by the roundabout there, if you look there, that's falling apart now. And I think we have to help them by, if anyone gets diary, you see it right down there, down here, such and such in your diary, the date. So when we go back next winter, when all these roads fall apart and all their substandard filling in falls apart, because our roads will fall apart next winter before this the potholes we've got now. It'd be okay if they dug the trench where the potholes were, because at least it would be improving it temporarily, but they tend to pick the only bit of good road left. So I think we need to write it down, Chairman, because that's two areas now which are falling apart, and they've been in, I know where you live, Margaret lives, has been beaten up. I know where I live has been beaten up with drenching. I've got a feeling next winter we don't start recording this. I say, well, we didn't do it. It was years ago. It was years ago. Well, we haven't been round there, but I think we should start writing a note of it because it's all going to fall apart.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, didn't I read in the Martin Tech circular that Claire forwarded around that these companies were not liking them because they were asking such a high standard in the reinstatement after they've been there? Did I read that a little bit in there?
That was fiction. Where's the high standard?
Oh, it's Swift. Is that what Swift
On the
said?
flagpole.
Well done, Margaret. Well done, Margaret.
And there lies her last meeting.
Thank you, Martin. Mark, when we're making the point about all these street closures, I think big thanks to Bethany. She's been doing a really good job keeping everyone up to date. She works with the TTRO down at Aylesbury.
I would say she gets every single one of the entire Buckinghamshire and has to go in and check exactly where it is. So it's quite a labour of love for them.
She's been doing a really good job. If you could relay that back to her. Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, that brings us to item 15, chairs items for information.
Press release. Press releases,
We don't
Chair.
have a standard press releases anymore. We
No.
have decided in the course of the meeting when it's always in.
Well,
There isn't
And now
a
I've been saying to Robin,
Well, this the chart.
you can't just make the agenda of it.
well, I can. You don't have to listen.
So
Try it here. Try it here.
the chairs items for information, I have none. Date of next meeting will be after resources. So we can't give you a start time yet. Resources is anything between an hour and 2 hours.
After resources? When's that about?
My apologies.
Yeah, we've got the coronation, we've got the Maybank, so.
There's 3 bank holidays in Mondays, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can't give you a time for that yet, but that is Monday, 16th of May. And with that, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.